Hi folks, I've already told about projection in my other program, but this video is important for those who want to become a real opera singer. Today I'm going to show you some examples also. As opera fans, before becoming opera singers, we have our favorite tenors, sopranos, baritone, basses, etc. And the most of our experience comes obviously from recordings. It is from those recordings we are conditioning our minds, where we hear perfect balance between singers, orchestra. There's no big and small voice, everything is perfectly matched. Cracks are not expected, even if you have live on the label of the recording. Not so long time ago, they actually recorded live performances, and I have many live performances recorded back in 70s, 80s, 90s. The 90s is like a transitive period, and I have a recording of Ballo in Maschera with Louis Quilico and Maestro Luciano Pavarotti, where Maestro Luciano Pavarotti actually cracks, not a big time, but still cracks 2 or 3 times in the performance. Now, if you hear other recordings recorded later, you will never hear such things, but those things are real. Later, or nowadays, if you notice the difference, so-called live recordings became almost as perfect as studio recordings. If the label says live but doesn't mention the concrete date of the performance, that usually means, that means that this performance was taken from, let's say, 6 recorded performances, and the best of chunks were taken from those performances. So this is not really a live performance, if you say. And also, in comparison with all the recordings of the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, where the sound actually is very true to live, because it was done with one mic, one mono mic, sitting somewhere after the orchestra, and the sound is as realistic, almost as realistic as it was during the performance. Today we have a very sophisticated equipment. Mics, directional mics, following mics, the mics that follow the voice, the mics that are directed and can amplify and can take the marked particular voice out. And so these recordings do not give you a true idea of how opera really sounds acoustically. These equipment can even balance the smallest voices and make them even or equal with the bigger ones in opera. We are slowly but surely losing what is called true opera voices and follow the ideal studio sound recordings. And we also want to expect this type of studio perfection in real opera. Opera companies learn how to use those amplifications during live recordings. So this video may be very much irrelevant if we all go in this direction, because projection as an issue will not exist anymore. That would be probably a good news for small voices that would never have a chance to become opera stars. That's already happening, but not on a massive scale yet. So the opera live sound will be substituted for a CD-like sound played on expensive sound system. Thrill of an acoustic sound will be substituted by digital sounds, and those fans who were mainly brought up by studio recordings will be surely pleased. Until it happens on a massive scale, this video will be still relevant. Now, come back to our subject. We're talking about projection, and I'm going to show you 3 ways of producing the sound with the famous aria, Don José's aria, La fleur que tu m'avais jetée. And you will hear so-called dark, over-darkened sound, or woofy sound. You will hear over maschera sound, the sound that is disbalanced with the lower body, and therefore creating nasality, and balanced sound. Unfortunately, in a way, we are in a catch-22. In this video, you will not be able to really hear the live sound, so you won't be able to say, oh, this is huge projective sound and this is a woofy sound. The only way you can tell is by the color of the sound. But why I made this video? This video I made for those who either like very dark sounds or very maschera sounds, which are incorrect to Italian bel canto. Woofiness, or over-darkened sound, because it lacks projection. And too much maschera, because it lacks beauty. So my advice here, if your voice is naturally dark, make sure that you connect perfectly with the maschera, and it will become one register, so-called chiaro-scuro, with a great balance. If you're a fan of the brighter sounds, make sure that you're connected to your lower body, to the chest, and with a certain balance that will make your voice sound like Italian voice, like Italian bel canto voice. You see, Pavarotti was a lyric tenor, but nevertheless he was Italian lyric tenor. I don't mean by nationality, of course he was Italian, but by the type of a color of the voice. Jussi Björling, to my point, was also an Italian tenor, though he wasn't Italian by origin, but by the voice projection. So all Italian voices, regardless to their stamina, to their dramatic or lyric, they all have full body connection. Full body connection. It means it's all in one register. That's a true Italian bel canto style. And if somebody divides it in registers, that's, I don't know how to call. La fleur de ma végétie dans ma prison m'était restée. La fleur que tu m'avais jetée dans ma prison m'était restée. La fleur que tu m'avais jetée dans ma prison m'était restée. Now listen to this la. The way I showed you the phrase la fleur que tu m'avais jetée, I want you to concentrate on three different sounds. As la. 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 Darker voice is made by lower larynx position. Position of the larynx can be naturally low, or it can be lowered by training. I'm not against dark voices, don't get me wrong, I love dark voices. My favorite voice is Enrico Caruso, by any ways. But dark voices, they lack projection unless they use correct technique and correct support. That's why I am warning you that you really have to find an opera maestro to suggest the balance between chiaro and scuro, to make your voice the most beautiful and projective at the same time. Caruso's tone is my favorite, and I'm not alone. It was favorite for Beniamino Gili, for Luciano Pavarotti, for Franco Corelli, for Placido Domingo, and you name it. Most of the tenors regard Caruso as a god of tenors. But Caruso's contemporaries never considered Caruso as a true dramatic tenor. As you know, in comparison to great Tamagno, who was an original Otello, and who actually had much brighter sound than Caruso in recordings, for our taste we would say, no, Caruso is more dramatic, it's darker. But we of course never have experience of that, because we only have recordings of Caruso and Tamagno. The fact that contemporaries considered Caruso as a full lyric tenor rather than dramatic tenor, in spite of the dark qualities that he possessed. And my final 2 points in this video: if you like dark voices, or even if you possess dark voice naturally, make sure that you have great support and enough squillo in it, because woofy voices without squillo sooner or later become worn out and they become too wobble. And for those who like bright voices, to avoid too much mascara and therefore too much nasality, and reconnect the voice to the whole body. This is Franco Tonelli, Science of Singing. See you soon. La